Good morning, everybody. We are working on 2D today, which is on Algebra of Functions. You should have watched the video on operations of functions already. The guy was a little annoying, but he did do a very good job. So if you have this, you can rewrite it like this. Highly recommend you rewrite it, okay? Let's just take a look at a few problems now. I'm starting with f of x and g of x right here, and I want to find f plus g of 2. So there are two ways I can do this. First way is I can find f of 2 plus g of 2. So I'm going to go find my f right here. That's what that says, and every time you see an x, you're putting a 2 in there. So I will have a 10, then I'm going to have a 2 squared minus 2 times 2. Okay, so that is my f. Here's the plus sign. Now it says go find g, and every time you see an x, you're going to put a 2 in there. So I'll have 2 times 2. All right, then we're just going to do the math. All right, that gives me 4 times 10, 40, minus 4, plus 4. Those are opposites, so that will give me a 40. Okay, there's another way we can do this as well. What we could do is combine our f and g first and then replace the x. So if I add together like the f of x, then my g of x, and then substitute in the 4, or the 2, sorry, 2. Okay, so let's add those together. Here's my f of x, and it says to add on my g of x. Those guys are opposites, so all I'm left with here is 10x squared. And now substitute in the 2. So I'd have 10, then 2 squared. 2 squared is 4 times that 10 gives me 40. So I have the same answer for both of those, so that works. Okay, here's my new f and g. Let's work a few problems here. So f plus g of x here, we're just going to add those guys together. So my f of x is 18x squared minus 24x. And then it says to add on my g of x, which is 3x. Okay, add like terms together, and I'm going to get 18x squared minus 21x. And that's it, you're done. Because we don't have a number to substitute in for x. It says substitute in x for x. Okay, then we got this one down here. Well, doesn't that look exactly the same? But now I have a -1 over there. So what I could do is take that and just plug it in there, since we already figured out that part. So I'll have 18 times -1 squared minus 21 times that -1. -1 squared will give me a 1 times the 18, so 18. -21 times the -1 gives me a plus 21. So that will give me, what, a 39? Okay, let me find that piece of paper. There it is. Yeah, okay. You could have done it the other way as well. Go up here, every time you see an x in that f, you're going to put in a -1. So that would give me 18, and that would give me plus 24. 18 plus 24, and then we would add on the -3 there, so, and that will give me a 39. We get the same thing, all right? F times g of -1 here. So I could do it two different ways. I am going to actually put in -1 up here, which we just did that, right? Isn't that the 18 plus 24? So 18 plus 24, then multiply by the g of -1, so -3 there. So this one here is going to give me a 42 when I add those together, times the -3, which gives me a -126. Okay. F over G. So F is the 18x squared minus 24x over the G of 3x. One of the things that we cannot have a denominator that's equal to 0. So in this case, x cannot equal 0. Remember, you take your denominator, set it to 0, and solve for x. So x cannot equal 0. Well, when I'm looking at this, I notice that I can factor out a 3x up here. So when I factor out a 3x, I'm left with 6x minus 8 over that 3x. Those guys cancel out, and there's my answer right there. Okay, so now here I want f over g of -3. All that I have to do is take that -3 and put it in right up there. So here was my answer. All I have to do now is substitute in -3 right here, okay? So that's going to give me 6 times the -3 minus 8, okay? So -24 minus the 8 gives me, let me see. Oh, that's not 24, that's 18, sorry. 18. So that's going to give me a -26, and there you go. Okay, what if they asked you to find f over g of 0? Well, remember, we couldn't have a 0 for an answer there, so this one is no solution. Don't worry too much about domain issues at this point. We're going to save that for Math 111. Okay, let's do a few homework problems here. So here's the F, G, and H that I'm starting with. And we usually use F, G, and H in math because, well, that's what we use. In biology, you might use P for population, or if you're in, let's say, a business class, you might use C for cost, R for revenue. It just tells you which function to go find. So this one tells me, go find function F. All right. Function f is x squared minus 9. And then we're going to add on to that our g of x. Well, here's my g of x right here, 2x. Now I'm just going to put it in standard form. So x squared plus 2x minus 9, and that's my answer. Okay, next one here, f plus g of 3. Oh, well, didn't we just find f plus g? So all I have to do now is take that 3 and put it up in here. Every time I see an x, I'm putting a 3 in. So that'll give me a 3 squared plus 2 times the 3 minus the 9. Okay, 3 squared is 9. That'll give me a 6, then a minus 9. Those guys are opposites, so are gone. So my answer to that would be 6. All right, f minus h of x. Okay, so go find your f. F is x squared minus 9. And this time we are going to subtract our h. And our h up here is x minus 3. And I have to subtract all of that, not just part of it. So now I need to distribute this. And I will get an x squared minus 9 minus x plus 3. Put together like terms, x squared minus x minus 6, and there you go, that's it. Oh, well, look at this, isn't that convenient? I got that f minus h with a -3, so at this time I'm just going to put in -3 every time I see an x. So -3 squared minus 3 times -3 minus 6 gives me a 9 plus 3 minus 6, so that's what 12 minus 6 gives me a 6. And there you go. Okay, composite functions. You should have watched the video for this already. So let's just go over a few problems on this. And I do want to point out here, let me find this piece of paper that I just did, that, where is it? I don't know where to throw it. Okay, here it is. This algebra of functions, that would be a little dot or not at all if there's nothing in between those, remember? It's multiplication, or you might have a little dot there. This is a circle, okay? A circle, so the notation is different. So this is Fogg and Goff. Highly recommend you rewrite it every time you get one of these problems. So here's my F, here's my G. I want to find Fogg of 4. So I rewrote it at F of G of 4. Well, we always start at the innermost parentheses and work our way out. So I need to find G of 4 first. So go find function G right there and put a 4 in there. So I've got x plus 3. Every time I see an x, I'm putting the 4 in. So now I have a 4 plus the 3 gives me a 7. So G of 4 equals 7. So now I'm going to just substitute that in there, and I will have an f of 7. Go find function f right there, x squared. Every time you see an x, you're putting the 7 in there. So now I have a 7 squared, and this gives me a 49, and that's my answer. Okay. Now I want to do Goff of 4. So rewrite it of G of F of 4. This time it says go find function f, and put a 4 in there. Okay, so that's x squared. I'm putting a 4 in every time I see an x. That gives me a 16. All right, this whole thing there equals 16. So now I have G of 16. Go find G. G right here. And every time you see an x, put a 16 in there. 16 plus the 3, that gives me 19. And there you go. I do want to point out here that Fogg of 4 and Goff of 4 will give you different answers, so be very careful how you do your substitution. Okay, Fogg of 2. Rewrite it, f of G of 2. And here's your new f and G. So let's find G of 2. Okay, here's my G, x squared plus 5. Every time I see an x, I'm putting a 2 in there. So 2 squared plus 5, that gives me 4 plus 5, gives me 9. Okay, this equals 9. So I'm taking that up there and I'm going to say, okay, that's f of 9. Go find your f now. That's 4x minus 1. Every time you see an x, you're putting in a 9. So I got 4 times the 9, then minus 1. So that's 36 minus 1 gives me a 35. All right, let's find Fogg of x. Now this one's a little different. So it says every time you see an x, substitute in an x. Okay, so what is G of x? Well, my G of x is x squared plus 5. So now it says go find f. Here's my f over here. Oh, I got an x. So when I got that x, I need to substitute in an x squared plus 5 and then minus 1. Okay, then you do the math. That gives me a 4x squared plus 20 minus 1, combined like terms, 4x squared plus 19. All right, Goff of x. Same type of thing. What is f of x? F of x is 4x minus 1. Pure substitution here, okay? Then it says go find G, and every time you see an x in G, you are going to replace it with 4x minus 1. Okay, so here's my 4x minus 1. I replace that x right there, and there you go. Okay, and this really means this, right? Which will give me 16x squared minus 4x plus 1, then plus that 5. Put together like terms, get 16x squared minus 8x plus 6, and there you go, you're done. All right, let's take a look at a few homework problems. Here's your F, G, and H. I need to find hog of 4. So rewrite it, H of G of 4. We need to find G of 4 first. Remember, we always start at the innermost, work our way out. So G is the 2x plus 3. Substitute in 4 for your x. I'm just going to rewrite it right over there, so like that. So that gives me an 8 plus 3, which gives me an 11. Okay, so this gives me now an H of 11. Go find H. H is x plus 5. Every time you see x, you're putting in an 11 plus 5, and that gives me a 16. All right, next one. All right, f of h of negative 2. Okay, h of negative 2. Now you could just do this in your head. You know, negative 2 plus 5 is a 3, so you can go like that. Then f of 3. Go find f. I'll rewrite this part here. I'll have x squared plus 4. Every time you see an x, you're putting in the 3. So 3 squared plus 4, that gives me 9 plus 4. That gives me a 13. So that's your answer for that one. All right, now we have this one here, and this time we're replacing x with x. Okay, so what is our h of x? H of x is x plus 5. All right, so go find f right up here, and I get an x squared plus 4. It says every time you see an x, you're putting in x plus 5. X plus 5. Square it plus 4. Well, that x plus 5 really, or squared, means this, right? So x squared plus 20, or shoot, sorry, plus 5x plus 5x plus 25 plus 4. Put together like terms. So that is going to give me an x squared plus 10x plus 29. And that would be your answer. Okay, this last one here is not very fun because it has a fraction, okay? So you rewrite it. First thing you want to do is find h of h of 1/2. So here's my h, x plus 5. I'm going to substitute in 1/2 for my x. Okay, so when I add those together, I get 5.5. Let's change that into an improper, so multiply, then add. That gives me 11/2. Okay, so that's what h of 1/2 is. So I take that up there. Now I need to find f of 11/2. Let's find f. Here it is. So x squared plus 4. I am substituting that in every time I see an x. So 11/2. I'm going to square that, then add 4. All right, when I square that, I get 121 over 4 plus, I'm going to rewrite this 4 as 16 over 4. That way I have a common denominator when I add those guys together. And then I will get, let me see here, a 137 over 4, and that is the answer for that one. All right, good luck.